I just finished my 8-part series on why and how the 5th and 6th seals. Before that, I did a series on the first 4 seals titled The Four Horsemen. This series also has 8 parts. I would highly recommend that you listen to both in their order before listening to this series. There are several concepts that need to be understood in order to get a better grasp of the 7th seal. That being said, let's begin this series with the following. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. The 7th seal is the last seal, just as the 7th Spirit of God, church, prophecy, trumpet, and bowl are the last of each. These are the 6 important 7s of Revelation, which when multiplied together equal 42. This number corresponds to the 40 and 2 months in Revelation 11:2 and 13:5, as well as with the number of generations listed in Matthew 1:17 from Abraham to Christ, given in 3 sets of 14. When 42 is seen as 3 14s, it reveals a complete witness of salvation and deliverance, defining the purpose of the 40 and 2 months in Revelation. This makes perfect sense when we recognize that the opening of the seals is the revelation of Jesus Christ coming forth as the Son of Man to finish the work of the Father on earth. Now, let me emphasize. There are 6 important 7s in Revelation. They are the 7 angels or spirits of God, along with the 7 churches. Then, the 7 prophecies and 7 sealed scroll or book. Last are the 7 trumpets and bowls. So, 42 signifies that all 6 7s, which essentially make up the entire book of Revelation, define God's purpose, which again is salvation and deliverance. Note that the King James says 40 and 2. 40 typifies the church's day of trial in the wilderness, while 2 represents the division and witness accomplished while in it. This day of trial is not a literal day, but refers to the judgment or loving discipline of the Father through Christ, which is different for every one of us. God does not judge us according to our religious opinions or expectations, but rather in accordance with His divine purpose. This is why God alone is the lawgiver and judge. It is His will being advanced, not ours, and it is His will that is perfect in its scope, saturated in the love and grace that He is. Without exception, everyone has a part in God's purpose, whether good or evil, for the earth is the Lord's and all its fullness. 7 is fullness. And fullness, this is best seen as the end of a cycle of sowing and reaping, typified by the fruit of a tree. The 8th step, then, is harvest, which includes the act of separation. This separation or division is represented by the 2 in the 40 and 2. 8 is the number of a new beginning, so harvest represents the start of a new cycle or generation. Jesus came to His own at the fullness of time. Hence the reason John the Baptist declared, "Even now the axe is laid to the root of the trees. Therefore every tree which does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire." And again, His winnowing fan is in His hand, and He will thoroughly clean out His threshing floor and gather His wheat into the barn, but He will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. Here we have both division and witness, the separation of bad trees from good trees, and the wheat from the stalk and the chaff, all of which are part of the harvesting process. Now, let's go to the following for an interesting perspective you may not be aware of. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David until the captivity in Babylon are 14 generations. And from the captivity in Babylon until the Christ are 14 generations. 3 14s are 6 7s, totaling 42. However, if you count the number of generations in Matthew 1, 2 through 16, you'll find just 40 generations, not 42. This would agree with our 40 in 40 and 2. But what about the other 2 generations? Is there a contradiction here? There is not, for when you count the number of names listed, you have 42. We arrive at this number due to Matthew 1:3, where Zerah, the twin of Phares, is added to the list, and Matthew 1:11 and 12, where Jeconiah is mentioned twice. When you take these 2 names out, you're back to 40 generations. Still, Matthew 1:17 lists 3 sets of 14, citing 42 generations. Why is this? When we list the generations as given, the 40th generation in name is Joseph. This then leaves Jesus, who is called Christ. So the name Jesus would be 41 on the list, while the title Christ would be 42. What do the other 2 generations typify? Spiritually, Jesus as Son of Man and Jesus as Son of God. Since 40 represents a complete birth cycle, or cycle of sowing and reaping, then the 2 denotes how the Lord, as Son of Man, separates, but as Son of God, He joins together. What is 2 becomes 1. This is atonement. Connecting to our perspective in Matthew 1:17, we have Luke 3:23 through 37, what most believe to be the lineage of Mary, the mother of Jesus. How many names are listed? 77. This is 2 7s, or 14, agreeing with and enhancing the 14 generations in Matthew 1:17. Any way you slice it, it comes back to salvation and deliverance. 40 and 2 months, 40 and 2 generations, where 40 refers to the generational process itself, and 2 refers to the necessary harvest and separation that follows. Is it not true that a baby is formed in 40 weeks, but then separated from the mother as soon as the 40 weeks is finished? Is it not also true that the baby is a witness of the generational cycle? Of course. Now, note what Jesus said in the following. A woman, when she is in labor, has sorrow because her hour has come. But as soon as she has given birth to the child, she no longer remembers the anguish, for joy that a human being has been born into the world. 7, a complete cycle. 8, a new beginning. But just before the birth, a woman goes into labor in sorrow because her hour has come. Might this point to the hour of trial in Revelation 3:10, which would also be the hour of judgment in Revelation 18:10, 17, and 19? Let's face it, folks, we tend to think that if things are somewhat bad, then it's not the hand of God. But as we see, the sorrow we sometimes endure is evidence of a spiritual process working in our midst. The Lord verifies this when He likens deception, wars, famine, pestilences, and earthquakes to birth pains. I will close at this point, but be sure to join me next time as we continue our examination of the seventh seal. There is much to be considered. Please feel free to like, comment, or subscribe, and I sincerely thank you for being a part of Grain of Wheat Publishing.